This Halloween night, we bring you 3 terrifying stories of dark rituals gone wrong. What starts out as a game quickly turns into a nightmare where reality blurs and something sinister appears. Feel free to watch the film to the end and learn about the horrors that lie behind the mirror and the abyss, if you are brave enough. Jack-o'-lantern. The legend of Jack-o'-lantern, or Jack the Miser, Jack-o'-lantern, originates from Irish folklore and is one of the most famous stories associated with Halloween and the tradition of carving pumpkins. The story tells of a cunning blacksmith named Jack, known in his village for his trickery, greed, and dishonesty. Jack loved to drink and constantly played pranks on people, but one day his audacity led him too far. One evening, Jack was sitting in a tavern, drinking as usual, when the devil himself approached him. The devil had heard of Jack's evil deeds and decided that his soul would be a good addition to his hell. He offered Jack a deal. The devil would take his soul in exchange for one last drink. Jack agreed, but being clever, asked the devil to turn into a coin so that he could pay for the drink. The devil, relying on his own power and deceit, granted the request. However, Jack quickly grabbed the coin and put it in his pocket next to a silver cross he carried. The devil could not return to his original form due to the power of the cross and found himself trapped. Jack made another deal with the devil. He would let him go if the devil promised not to take his soul for 10 years. The devil had no choice but to agree. 10 years later, the devil came back for Jack's soul, but the blacksmith outwitted him once more. This time, Jack asked the devil to pluck an apple from a tree so that he could eat it one last time before dying. When the devil climbed the tree, Jack quickly carved a cross into the bark, and the devil was trapped again. This time, Jack secured a promise from the devil never to take his soul to hell. The devil had no other choice but to agree, and Jack remained alive. However, as is often the case in legends, such deals with the devil rarely end well. Time passed, and eventually Jack died. His soul went to heaven, but St. Peter at the pearly gates refused to let him in because of his sinful life, full of deceit and drunkenness. Then Jack went to hell, but the devil, true to his promise, could not take his soul. He drove Jack away, leaving him to wander between worlds. To keep Jack from being in complete darkness, the devil gave him a piece of burning coal. Jack placed the coal inside a hollowed-out turnip to keep the light from going out, and since then, he has wandered the night with this lantern, becoming a spirit doomed to eternal wandering. Originally in Ireland and Scotland, people carved lanterns from turnips or rutabagas to ward off evil spirits like Jack. When Irish immigrants brought this tradition to America, they discovered that pumpkins, which were plentiful there, were much easier to carve and better suited for creating scary faces. Thus, the modern tradition of carving pumpkin lanterns on Halloween was born, symbolizing Jack and his endless journey. Jack-o'-lantern became not only the embodiment of the legend of the cunning blacksmith, but also a reminder of human greed and the consequences of deals with dark forces. Queen of Spades. One late evening, 3 friends, Mary, Anna, and Katie, decided to perform the ritual of summoning the Queen of Spades. They were 13 years old and had heard many scary stories about the ghostly woman in black who appears when called and takes away those who don't follow the ritual's rules. However, the girls considered it more of a game and didn't really believe anything truly dangerous could happen. They prepared thoroughly, choosing an old abandoned cabin on the outskirts of town where no one would disturb them, and where the atmosphere itself was already creepy. In the room stood a dusty old mirror in a heavy frame. In front of it, they placed a glass of water and lit a candle. At midnight, according to the instructions, they stood in front of the mirror, held hands, and said 3 times, "Queen of Spades, appear." For a few minutes, nothing happened, and the girls began to laugh at their own bravery and fears. But then Mary noticed something strange. The reflection of the candle in the mirror started to flicker, as if someone had blown on the flame. The girls froze, and then they heard the door creak open on the first floor. This frightened them, but Mary, the bravest of the friends, decided to go downstairs and check what was going on. "It's probably just the wind," she said, trying to sound confident, and walked out of the room. Several minutes passed, but Mary did not return. Anna began to feel anxious. Her curiosity overcame her fear, and she went after Mary despite Katie's pleas to stay. When Anna disappeared into the darkness, Katie was left alone. Now she was genuinely terrified. Not daring to make a sound, she hid in a closet standing in the corner of the room, tightly closed the door, and held her breath. The night seemed endlessly long. Katie stayed hidden in the closet, listening to every sound, not daring to even peek out to see what had happened to her friends. Thoughts swirled in her head that this was all just a silly joke that had gone too far. But she didn't dare move, let alone leave her hiding place. In the morning, when Katie was found by her parents, she was in a state of shock. Her trembling couldn't be calmed, and her eyes were filled with terror. She told them about how they had summoned the Queen of Spades, and about hearing her friends leave and not come back. Later, when the house was searched, Anna was found dead in the bathroom. There were 3 black marks on her neck, as if from burns or bites. Mary was found 3 days later. Her body lay in the damp basement, with the same 3 black marks on her neck. The police were baffled by what had happened, but there were no signs of a struggle or any injuries on the girls' bodies, except for those strange marks. Katie was the only one who survived, but her story about the Queen of Spades was not taken seriously, dismissed as the imagination of a frightened child. Time passed, and the girl gradually returned to her normal life, though the fear never completely left her. She often thought back to that night and regretted that they had ever attempted the dangerous ritual. Many believed the girls had simply fallen victim to an unfortunate accident. But those who knew the old legends understood that playing with the Queen of Spades rarely ends well. Emptiness and answers. Rumor has it that every year on Halloween night from October 31st to November 1st, a portal to the void opens in the world. This is a special state where, from 2 to 5 in the morning, all the laws of reality vanish. Nothing appears as it should, and there is only one way to experience this void: by daring to summon its power. To do this, one must find themselves in a dark room, where there is no light from any bulb, candle, or even the moon outside the window. The darkness must be absolute, and the only source of visibility should be the faint reflection in the mirror. In such a room, you need to stand directly in front of the mirror and stare deeply into your own eyes without looking away for even a second. Time seems to slow down, sounds gradually fade away, leaving behind a sense of complete silence. And then, when the person is ready to believe that nothing will happen, a cold touch appears, as if an invisible hand has run an icy finger along the skin. At this moment, you need to place your right hand on the mirror and whisper, "I give my consent." The words must be spoken clearly, confidently, without the slightest hesitation, because the void does not forgive doubts. If everything is done correctly, the mirror will suddenly begin to fog up, and through the mist, something strange and terrifying will emerge, a vision of an infant. But this is no ordinary infant. Its eyes are as black as the abyss, its skin is missing, with every vein and muscle exposed. There is nothing human in its gaze, only an endless emptiness. The infant will stare straight into the soul, and at that moment the person will be engulfed by fear, which will penetrate to the core. The surrounding silence will be replaced by a buzzing noise, the irritating hum of flies, accompanied by a whisper that will envelop and press against the ears. Then, the infant will begin to ask questions, its voice vague and detached, sounding both distant and near at once. The questions will concern life, its meaning, the nature of human existence, and the darkest corners of the mind. Every answer to the questions is important because the void demands honesty and depth from the person. But for each wrong answer, it punishes. A mistake could cost one of the 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch. And there is no mercy in this punishment. The sense disappears instantly and forever, leaving only the painful awareness of its loss. A correct answer, however, grants the opportunity to recall and name the name of a familiar person, a friend, relative, or just someone from the past. Yet, this advantage turns out to be an illusion because, with the first rays of sunlight, it becomes clear that the named individuals are found dead. Their bodies are drained of blood, devoid of muscles and eyes, as if their essence had been pulled into the void. Those who try to uncover the secret of this ritual say that the infant is the embodiment of the void itself, its desire to explore the human soul, to understand its fears and weaknesses. Or perhaps it is a guide, a messenger from a world where there is neither time nor life, and each of its questions is a way to drag the person closer to that oblivion. Only a few dare to share their experiences. They say their eyes have changed, becoming dim, empty, as if they absorbed a part of that void. And those who completed the ritual entirely disappeared without a trace, as if taken to another dimension where there is neither light nor darkness, only endless nothingness. Thank you for being with us all this time. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new interesting stories. Thank you all very much. GrimNight was with you. See you in a week.